أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات بيجي محمد وعلى Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The verse that I recited is from Surah Al-Ahzab, verse number 21. Although we are commemorating the Wafat of RasoolAllah, as well as tonight is also Isa al-Sawab Majlis for the Marhuma for whom you recited Surah Fatiha. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the blessings of this Majlis, with the gathering of mu'mineen, and those who have prayed for the marhuma and recited the Surah Fatiha for her. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give her exalted place in the paradise among the Jawar of Masumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. And also on the same note, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give the tawfiq of sabr and patience to all of the bereaved family who suffered this loss. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also give them the sabr to go through these difficult times. The verse that I recited is a very common verse as far as Rasulullah is concerned. This verse from Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, verse number 21, is directing our attention towards the character of Rasulullah. It says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Indeed, for you in the life of Rasulullah is a very good example. And it continues by saying, for those of who have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the day of judgment and who remember God very often. So over here, the concept of the kirdar and the characteristics of Rasulullah, as far as his uswa is concerned, or his biography is concerned, or his seerah is concerned, how is it possible for us to comprehend, first of all, the seerah of Rasulullah, and on second hand, go ahead and implement that into our life? We look at over here, the Prophet was given a very difficult task when he was mab'uth in that particular area in Arabia. He's living in a time when people are worshiping many idols. In fact, close to 360 idols. They have an idol for every single day. There are different idols that Quran also talks about. If you look towards the verse of Surah Nuh, verse number 22, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts 5 different idols that these kuffar used to worship. It says, وَقَالُوا لَا تَذَرُنَّ إِآلِهَتَكُمْ وَلَا تَذَرُنَّ وَدًّا وَلَا سُوَاعًا وَلَا يَغُوثَ وَلَا يَعُوقَ وَنَصْرًا. All of these 5 names are the names of the idols. He says, what are the names of the idols? One of them is Wad. Second one which is being mentioned is Saww. Third one which is being mentioned is Yaghuth. Fourth is Yuwaq and Nasra, Ya'uq and Nasra. These are the names of the idols that exist at that time. Surah Nuh, verse number 22 talks about that. We see that even among these idols, there were others as well. The idol which was famous at that time, which existed in the city of Taif, was the idol known as Lat. We see there was an idol which was known as Manat, which existed between Mecca and Medina. On the outskirts of Mecca, there was an idol known as Uzza. And inside Masjid al-Haram, there was an idol known as Hubal. And there was an idol which was a male idol which existed at the Mount Safa. There was a female idol which existed on the Mount Marwa. In fact, they were all surrounded by these idols. They used to do tawaf between Safa and Marwa. In fact, doing tawaf of these 2 idols, one male and the second female idol. This is where we understand how was it possible for someone like Rasulullah to be able to get rid of all of these idols, not just physically, but also from the hearts of these individuals. This is where it is a very important task that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to Rasulullah. Now this is where the uswa of Rasulullah, the characteristics and the example, the great example of Rasulullah comes into play. We see that people had gone down to the level where they were naming their children after these idols. this is Abd Manat, this is Abd Uzza, this is Abd Hubal, and so on and so forth. So when people start naming their children after this, you see how engraved this concept in and how much they are fond of these idols, and they love them to the extent that they're naming their kids after that. This was basically the status and the level of their beliefs. So they believed in all of these idols. So I'm just going to present a few things, and then we'll go to the uswa and the example of Rasulullah. Second thing we look over here is the pride and the vanity that existed in that society. The show off, showing off on different occasions, although it continues to exist even among our own societies and among our own communities, but it existed a lot back then. They would be boasting and bragging about whatever they possessed. The number of people they had in their tribes, the number of goods that they had in their possessions, or their forefathers and before them, all of those people who had left things for them. They would be taking pride in that, and they would be comparing themselves with other people, to the extent that they will even be comparing their wives with one another as far as their characteristics are concerned. Something which you would keep a lid on and would not expose to other people. They were discussing these things so that it gives them some sort of a pride over another individual. We see at this particular stage where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also addresses to them in Surah Takasur, it says, Alhaakumut takathur hatta zurtumul maqabir. They did not stop with that. They said, in order to count how powerful we are, we're going to go ahead and count even those who are deceased. They said, well, a large number of community is the most powerful community. True today as well. The more community members you have, the stronger the community will be. And they were bragging about this aspect. They said, well, let's count how many people do we have in our tribe. They would go ahead and count. If it was an equal amount, they would say, well, let's go count those people who have died already, the deceased from our communities as well. So they went towards the maqabir, the qabristan, and the graveyards to start counting their deceased people. Until the ayah was revealed, Alhaakumut takathur hatta zurtumul maqabir. That you have gone to the extent counting your goods, that you're now visiting the maqabir to go ahead and count your deceased, those who have died already, to show that which one has larger number of community and which one is powerful among you. To this extent you have drawn now. This is the lowest level that you can get to. This is the society, brothers and sisters, that our Prophet is now going to go ahead and remain in, and to bring about a change and get rid of these vanities and the things to show off and bragging and boasting that exist from the hearts of the individual. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. So how was Prophet able to do that? When Prophet would try to speak, you think that Prophet had an easy way or easy access to go ahead and speak to the people? No. We hear and we read in the ahadith, and the historians have narrated that whenever Prophet would start to propagate or say something, these people would make fun of Prophet. These people would put cotton in their ears. They would cause disturbance. For example, I'm speaking to all of you over here with the, with all the respect and everything. You're sitting over here trying to pay attention to what I'm saying. And if someone gets up and starts causing confusion, causing disturbance, for example. Sometimes kids get up, they want to go, but they don't mean anything. But for example, someone adult, it stands up and starts causing disturbance so that I cannot speak. Because if a person starts to say something, people will look towards this individual, they will fail to look at me. This was what was going on. Prophet would be speaking, and these people will come and they'll start disturbing him. When they'll disturb him, people will go away. So it was not an easy thing for Prophet to go ahead and address to these individuals either. It wasn't that Prophet had an easy access to their gatherings and Prophet can just go and talk to them and bring them out of this darkness that they existed in. No. It was very difficult for Prophet to even speak to these people, to the extent that Prophet says about himself, "Ma udhiya nabiyyun mithlu ma udhait." He said, no Nabi was given such harm, no Nabi had seen such harassment and traumatization that which I went through. Udhiya comes from adhiyat. The adhiyat that I went through, none of the previous prophets had seen any type of aziyat from that extent which I had seen. So therefore, the task of Prophet is even more daunting and hard to understand as to how was he able to show through his character and bring about this change into the people. Here we will discuss some of the patterns of the tabligh of Rasulullah, so that at least we know what he did. And if we can understand what he did, we should be able to go ahead and apply those things into our lives. And maybe then we can say, yes, we are following the uswa and uswa hasana of Rasulullah. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. One of the titles that Allah has given to Rasulullah, that he's Bashir and he's Nadhir. Bashiran wa Nadhira. That Prophet is Bashiran. What it means? It means that he gives glad tidings. He gives good news. He acts with people with mercy. And he's also Nadhira. That means he warns people. So at occasions he becomes strict with people. At occasions he has to show some sort of strictness when it comes to dealing with the individuals. So for example, if you only show muhabbat and compassion and mercy in your life, and this aspect of warning does not exist, then there will not be enough balance in your life. For example, if a child is brought up with only muhabbat, with only love and mercy, and that's it. You did not show any sort of warning, or you did not show any sort of strictness with this child. What happens when this child grows up? And psychology also agrees with it, but that when this child grows up, this child will be dependent on other individuals. He will have or she will have a lot of expectations from other people. He will be expecting a lot of things. Things that he had always received when he was growing up in his own household. Because whatever he asked for, he was given a reply with gently, with nicely, with compassion, with mercy, with muhabbat, and everything was given to him. The end result grows up now depending on other people. So muhabbat leads towards tawaqqu. That when you show too much love, excessive love, you will be making this child expecting things from you which you cannot go ahead and give. And if you can give, other people in the society and other people later on will not be able to give it to this child. Second thing is obviously nadhira, warning. That is also wrong if there's only warning in the life of this child from the time he's born until growing up. And going through the adolescence and whatnot. Every moment, every step of the way, you're strict. You're warning, and you're always, showing no mercy, none whatsoever. No, you got to keep some sort of balance between. You cannot always be doing malamat. Why? Because malamat is something, al-ifratu fil malama, yashibbu nayran al-lajaja. When you show malamat and when you show rebuking and reproach, all the time, it brings stubbornness to the kid, or it brings stubbornness to the character of insan. So the same way, too much muhabbat will bring expectation. Now, too much reproaching will also bring what? Stubborn, and make this kid to be, this child who's growing up to be stubborn. So you got to keep a balance between both muhabbat and as well as when you are reproaching this child. Because in order for you to keep this balance, in order for him to be later on be able to survive in the society, there has to be this balance that exists. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. And I think this is something which is missing in our parents. As far as the parenting is concerned, and I'm not talking about the new parents, I'm talking about even those who have done our parenting, those who were parents, 30, 40 years ago, those whose children have grown up now. Yes, there were things in their time which were different, but today especially, those who are now just recently have become parents and now they're going through this parenting. They gotta have both of these components in their lives as far as upbringing is concerned in order for them to have the fruitful children that they are expecting later on. Prophet lived in a time when killing children was something which was a habit of people, which was a fantasy of the people. And that is the reason Quran counts. It says, زَيَّنَ لِكَثِيرٍ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ قَتْلَ أَوْلَادِهِمْ. It was zayyana, it was sort of embellishment, it was sort of zinat for the people to go ahead and kill their kids. They would be killing their kids. And it was a matter of zinat for them. They will be talking about it, and they'll be enjoying it. You read the ayat of Surah Takwir, it says, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. What was the reason that this girl was killed? Well, she was still an infant. So it was sort of a zenith for these people to be killing. That is the mentality and the level of these people. We must appreciate the good things that we see in our children. And that is very important, because when you appreciate, it encourages them to do even further good. Prophet, at every occasion, whenever he would see a child do something, for example, from prayers, if he sees a child coming to the masjid and praying, Prophet would show special attention towards this child. Why? It will encourage this child further and even encourage those who are in the surroundings of this child. Why? What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from Prophet? Allah wants from Prophet to make him look like beloved of the people. Allah says to Hazrat Musa, "O Musa, make people attracted towards me. Show that I love them. Make them see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is attractive. Not the face where people are repulsive and they turn around and they go away." Musa asked, "Oh Allah, how do I do that? How do I make people love you? What do I do?" Replied by, "Show them or remind them of my favors that I have bestowed upon them." That's one way of bringing people closer to me, giving the attraction that they have or making them attractive towards me. And therefore we see that the second pattern that Rasulullah had adopted when he was doing this propagation, it was reminding people of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat deji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. And not just the reminding of the material favors, rather reminding of the immaterial favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. The intangible favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that sometimes we take for granted. Just the fact that we have mother and father is a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the fact that we have health is a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When do we realize about these things? When we no longer have these things with us anymore. And so Rasulullah, one of his duties is what? To remind people of the favors. Battle of Hunain is the battle which took place right after conquest of Mecca. It is a battle which produced the largest amount of goods and ghanimat, mal-e-ghanimat for Muslimin. As far as the livestock is concerned, some 6,000 camels or the animals of the domestic animals were acquired in this battle, which takes place right after Fatih Mecca. What does Prophet do? Prophet gives large number of these ghanaim, the booties from the war, to the people of Mecca. To the extent that each individual got hundreds and hundreds of camels, for example. One person, 100 camel. Another person, 100 camel. These people were known as Ashabul Mea. Mea means 100. Ashab who received 100, 100, 100. So these people received 100 camels, 100 whatever. They were referred to as Ashabul Mea. This battle brought a lot of goods to Muslimin. It happened right after Fatih Makkah. Well, obviously, when Prophet is spending so much and paying attention towards the people of Makkah, now that he has conquered this Makkah, he's paying so much attention towards that, what will naturally happen? People of Medina started feeling deprived. Right away, there was this notion going around that, we fought in Badr, gave so many lives. We fought in Uhud, lost half of our army and no reprieve for us. And we fought in Khandaq. We fought in other wars before Fatih Makkah. And there was never such, ghanimat that Muslims had acquired. This is the first time. And what Prophet does, he goes and gives it all back to the people of Makkah. Obviously, this is something which is spread like a fire. It wasn't hidden from anyone. It wasn't definitely not hidden from Rasulullah. Prophet comes and speaks to these people. And he comes and he talks to them. He said, "I hear that you are complaining." And then Prophet says to them, "Did I not bring or extinguish the fire of enmity that existed between your tribes?" So when Prophet came, Aus and Khazraj, the two tribes, they were fighting one another. To the extent they were killing one another. Prophet said, did I not extinguish that fire that existed between you two? Did I not bring this religion to you guys? Did I not make you were weak before and I made you powerful? Did I not do all of these things to you? While Prophet was counting all of these things, these people had the time to reply back as well. Oh Prophet, you came from Mecca, you had nothing. We provided shelter. Prophet, you came from Mecca, you didn't have a house, we gave you a house. Prophet, you came from Mecca, you didn't have a masjid, we built a masjid for you. We did all of these things for you as well. If you're going to go ahead and count all of these things that you have done, we can also go ahead and count all of the things that the Ansar have done for you. Right away, Prophet says, what is more beloved to you, the booty from the war or Rasulullah? Right away, the reply was, of course, Rasulullah is more important to us. We can care less for the ghanaim of the battle. More important is you. This is where Prophet, now when he's speaking to these individuals, he's keeping this psychological aspect when he's dealing with people because they're going through the concept that they're being deprived right now at the moment. Prophet is dealing with them with emotions as well. He said, what would you prefer more? The booty from the war or have Rasulullah between you? He said, definitely Rasulullah. Rasulullah being with us is far more superior than any ghanaim from the war. Prophet said, the reason that I have given all of this to the people of Makkah, because just recently we conquested Makkah. I want to show that we are with them so they stay with us as well. I'm not going to stay in Makkah. I'm going to come back to Medina and live with you. I'm going to be with you all the time. And I will die in your city as well. What more would you want than Rasulullah being with you? Would you rather prefer this materialistic booty from the war? Or would you rather have Rasulullah be with you? So he's reminding them of the favor, one of the most important favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has given and bestowed upon the people of Medina, that although Prophet is born in Makkah, Prophet was raised in Makkah, but Prophet chooses to live in Medina. Prophet chooses to even die in Medina. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad pa. The third pattern, and I'll go through these things quickly, that Rasulullah uses the ravish, if you want to call it, is ravish-e bedariye vijdan. What does that mean? It is the ravish, is the pattern of awakening the conscience of insan, of human being. The way you should speak to individual, the way a Prophet spoke to people, he spoke to them with proofs and with evidences. For example, if you look, that when Prophet Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ, when he was brought and he said, people asked him, did you break all of these idols? His reply was, ask the big one. The biggest idol that you have, ask the big one. Maybe he'll answer you who broke them. And they all turned around, they looked at Hazrat Ibrahim and said, are you kidding us? If they could talk, if they could only talk. So then Hazrat Ibrahim talks back and says, so you're telling me that you worship something which can't even defend itself? When it can't even defend itself, how is it going to defend you later on? Right away, it brings this awakening of wijdan, awakening of the conscience inside this insan at that particular time. Rasulullah adopted the same mentality when he dealt with people. A person came and says, oh Rasulullah, we're living in a society, obviously, in the society, there are a lot of sins that exist, and one of the things that exist is the concept of, or is the sin of zina, for example. And so people are indulging into this, and we come from this background, and we're into this as well. Right away, people were offended. People said, they were talking about, you're living among us, and you're talking about zina. That definitely, you're laying your eyes onto the women which belong to us. Right away, they were attacking the honor of the people. How does Prophet reply back? He said, well, when you are attacking the honor of the people, just imagine you also have the same honor. You also have the same namus. You also have the sisters and the mothers and so on and so forth in your household. How would you react if someone thought of you in the same way? So this is attacking the wijdan and the conscience of the people. So when you're dealing with other people, when you're doing iblagh, when you're doing tabligh, if you want to follow the way Prophet treated, this is one of the methods. The last method that I want to mention again, and I'm going Just giving one example of each method. In fact, there are so many things that could be discussed in regards to the events in history that have taken place, but unfortunately, with the lack of time, we will just stick with one or two examples, so at least we understand the concept that was adopted by Rasulullah. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There are 12 different methods that Prophet applied. The more the methods, the easier it will be for you to attract more people. Fourth method is the method known as method of tamsil wa tashbih. That is the method of giving examples, using analogies. And that's what Prophet did a lot. Gives example, gave real life examples, nothing, which is figurative. No, he was always literal when he was giving examples. To the extent, when the kuffar of Mecca, they wanted to present Prophet with all of these favors and saying that, let go of the word of Allah, forget about your religion, we'll give you whatever you want. What was the reply the Prophet gave? He said, لَوْ وَضَعُوا الشَّمْسَ فِي الْيَمِينِ وَالْقَمَرَ فِي يَسَارِ. If they go ahead and place, the sun on my right hand and they place Qamar, the moon, on my left hand, I will not let go of what I'm doing. Here a person might have said, well, Rasulullah is using figure of speech. He's giving an example of sun and the moon. Can you even imagine sun being on the hand? So for example, you and I, when we are giving examples in our lives, especially when we're, for example, trying to, praise someone or talking about some beauty, for example, we say, well, your eyes are like the eyes of the stars. I wish I can bring those stars down to you, and stuff like that we imagine, for example. These are the examples that are, beyond our possession. We cannot do these things. So we give these examples. But when Prophet is saying, if they were to put sun on my right hand and moon on my left hand, it's not figure of speech, brother and sister. It's not something that Prophet is giving or exaggerating in this regard. No. He said, I'm the one who has in my hands, in my possession, this sun and this moon. If you talk about the moon, moon is something which I had broken into two pieces. If you talk about sun, my wali was able to return this sun back when it had already set. So these things are in my possession. Prophet does not give, fake examples for that matter. He gives real life examples, and if we want to do the same thing, we will also succeed. He shook the trunk of the tree where the leaves had already dried up. When he was shaking the trunk, all the leaves started falling. He said, look, the same way these leaves are now falling to the ground is the same way if you repent, your sins will also start falling onto the ground. Gives the example to the people when he's in the desert. He says, go look for wood, pieces of wood, so we can go ahead and build fire. People said, Prophet, we are in the middle of a desert. How is it possible for us to find wood? He said, no, look thoroughly, and whatever you find, come back and we'll build fire with that. People go because they were looking from a bird's eye view, looking at the desert in front of them, they couldn't see anything. When they go, they thoroughly look through, they find bits and pieces of wood, they come back, and there was enough for them to build fire. Prophet right away sets an example. Look, the way when you're asked about your own sins, you say, well, no, I don't have any sins. Because from your perspective, sinning is only stealing or killing or adultery, and that's it. This is only sin in your regards. No. There are other things which are also considered to be sins that you disregard and think that you don't have on your account, but they exist. If you go ahead and do this thorough search, look for the wood the way you were looking for the wood in the desert, you will also find these sins laying in you as well. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. Lastly, we see that the last days of the Rasulullah's life, that in these last days, Rasulullah, who's the leader of all of humanity, would you imagine any leader to gather his people around him and say that what kind of Nabi was I for you? What kind of prophet was I for you? And the reply obviously is given that, oh Prophet. There was all positive replies that came. Everybody positively replied by saying, oh Prophet, you were the best of the prophets. Although we hadn't seen any other prophets, but yeah, you were the best leader that mankind could ever ask for. This is where Prophet is asking, if I have any debt on my shoulder from anyone right here, ask me before I leave this world. This is the leader of mankind, who is also known as Rahmatan lil Alameen. When Prophet left this world, he was not in debt to anyone. The whole Arabia was in debt to Rasulullah. We see that even at the last moments of his life, he's trying to guide the humanity. What does he say? Inni tarikum fikum thaqalain. I'm leaving behind you two weighty things. That if you hold on to these two weighty things, you will never go astray. So he's constantly worried about, even in these 23 years, all the problems that Prophet had faced. Even in these last days, Prophet is worried about the guidance so that the community does not go misguided or does not go astray after he leaves this world. We see, یہ وہ دن ہے 28 سفر کا کہ جس دن رسول اللہ کی وفات واقع ہوتی ہے. وہ رسول جب اس دنیا سے گزرا، یہ کہتا ہوا گزرا کہ لا اسألکم علیہ اجرا الا المودۃ فی القربى، کہ میں کچھ نہیں مانگتا سوائے مودت فی القربى، میرے قرابت داروں سے محبت. آپ دیکھیے کہ رسول کے وہ آخری ایام کہ جب رسول بستر مرگ پر ہیں اور جناب سیدہ ان کے کنارے میں ہیں، یہ وہ وقت ہے کہ جب دق الباب ہوتا ہے، کوئی شخص دروازہ کھٹکھٹاتا ہے اور جناب سیدہ یہ کہہ کے واپس کر دیتی ہیں کہ میرے بابا کی حالت تشویشناک ہے، میرے بابا کی حالت اس وقت ایسی نہیں ہے کہ وہ کسی سے بات کر سکیں، اے سائل کسی اور وقت واپس آ جانا. یہ کہنا تھا کہ وہ سائل چلا جاتا ہے، لیکن تھوڑی دیر کے بعد سے دوبارہ دروازے پہ کھٹکھٹ ہوتی ہے. دوبارہ پوچھا، کہا میں سائل ہوں، میں آیا ہوں رسول کی بارگاہ میں. جناب سیدہ دوبارہ کہتی ہیں کہ واپس پلٹ جا، ابھی میرے بابا کی یہ حالت نہیں ہے کہ وہ کسی سے مل سکیں، کسی سے ملاقات کر سکیں، ان کی حالت اس طریقے کی نہیں ہے. رسول جو غش کے حالت میں تھے، ایک دفعہ رسول کی آنکھیں کھلتی ہیں، رسول آنکھیں کھول کے کہتے ہیں، بیٹی اے سیدہ یہ کون ہے تم نہیں جانتی، یہ کوئی عام سائل نہیں ہے، یہ وہ ہے کہ جو کہیں پہ بھی بغیر اجازت کے چلا جاتا ہے، اس کو کہیں اجازت لینے کی ضرورت نہیں پڑتی ہے. ارے یہ ملک الموت ہے جو کسی دروازے پہ اجازت کے لیے نہیں رکتا ہے، یہ صرف اور صرف احترام ہے تمہارے دروازے کا، اور یہ صرف اور صرف احترام ہے میری ذات کا کہ یہ ملک الموت بھی آنے سے پہلے اجازت طلب کر رہا ہے. اجرکم علی اللہ، خدا کسی غم میں نہ رلائے سوائے غم آل محمد کے. بس اس طریقے سے جناب رسول اللہ کی وفات واقع ہوتی ہے، رسول اللہ اس دنیا سے گزر جاتے ہیں. وہ مدینہ کہ جہاں رسول نے اس مدینے کو آباد کیا تھا، وہ مدینہ جہاں رسول اللہ کے فرزندان رسول اللہ کی بیٹی اس مدینے میں رہی، وہ مدینہ جہاں رسول کے اہل بیت اس مدینے میں رہے. ارے یہ وہی مدینہ ہے کہ جہاں 28 سفر کو رسول اللہ کی وفات ہوتی ہے، اور اسی مدینے سے 28 رجب کو امام حسین کی روانگی شروع ہوتی ہے. اجرکم علی اللہ، خدا کسی غم میں نہ رلائے سوائے غم آل محمد کے. یہ وہی جگہ ہے جہاں سے امام حسین کی روانگی شروع ہوتی ہے. زیادہ مصائب نہیں پڑھنے آپ کے سامنے، بس اس روانگی کا ایک منظر آپ کے سامنے پیش کر دوں کہ عبداللہ ابن سنان سے روایت ہے کہ جب میں نے سنا کہ امام حسین کوچ فرما رہے ہیں، کہتے ہیں کہ میں آیا امام کی دولت قدے پہ، آگے وہاں پہ میں کیا دیکھتا ہوں منظر کہ ایک ایک جانے کی تیاریاں ہو گئی ہیں، سواریاں کھڑی ہوئی ہیں اور ایک ایک کو سوار کرایا جا رہا ہے. کہتے ہیں میں نے کیا منظر دیکھا کہ ایک جوان آتا ہے، ایک بی بی کو سوار کراتا ہے. میں نے پوچھا کہ یہ کون جوان ہے؟ کہا یہ امام حسن کا فرزند قاسم اپنی والدہ ام فروہ کو سوار کرا رہا تھا. کہا ایک منظر دیکھا، ایک اور جوان آتا ہے، ایک بی بی کو سوار کراتا ہے. کہا یہ کون تھا؟ کہا یہ ام لیلہ کو سوار کرانے والے علی اکبر تھے. کہا ایک اور منظر دیکھا کہ اب یہ جو پچھلا جوان بھی آیا ہے، قاسم بھی آئے ہیں، علی اکبر بھی آئے ہیں اور عباس بھی آگے بڑھے ہیں. ارے کہا یہ کون بی بی ہیں؟ کہا ام کلثوم کو سوار کرایا جا رہا ہے. امام حسین اس تمام منظر کو کو دیکھ رہے تھے. کہا راوی نے کہ امام نظارت کر رہے تھے کرسی پہ بیٹھے ہوئے کہ ایک وہ وقت آیا کہ امام حسین بھی اپنی جگہ سے کھڑے ہو گئے, عباس بھی آگے بڑھتے ہیں, کسی نے نالین سیدھی کہیں, کسی نے پردہ اٹھایا, کسی نے ہاتھ پکڑ کے بی بی کو سوار کرایا. کہا یہ کون معظمہ ہے؟ کہا تم نے نہ پہچانا, یہ علی کی بڑی بیٹی جناب زینب کبریٰ ہے. ارے اس طریقے سے مدینے, نانا کے مدینے سے گئے تھے, اسی طریقے سے جب نانا کے مدینے واپس آتے ہیں نہ اب عباس ہیں, نہ علی اکبر ہیں, نہ حسین ہیں. اللہ القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.